Are you a bit out of breath, son?
I'm a little bit out of breath. I trotted in. I didn't sleep great. Nothing to do with the golf or the hurling or anything like that. Just didn't sleep great. But God, Tipp were woeful yesterday, weren't they?
I don't know. I think that we just showed the Michael Ryan speaking with Oisin afterwards, and he seems very calm and quite relaxed. You were down at the game?
Yeah.
Doing press?
Yeah. So I was covering it for the Star. So the issues that I would have had with how Tipperary played yesterday are the same issues that we talked about in here before. The same ones that we talked about on the hurling video show that we did on Friday. Two things. The full back line for Tipperary. So again, same issue as last year. Same issue as all this year. And 50-50 long ball going into the forward line. Tipperary are just constantly lumping the ball into the forward line. And like, if you have a good ball, why would you turn it into 50-50 possession? And Tipp are just doing that time after time. And in the second half, they broke down so badly. They only managed 4 shots from play. They were so bad, they only managed 1 wide.
Who are they missing?
Tipp are missing Seamus Callanan, Dan McCormick, Bonner Maher, and Noel McGrath.
Yeah.
So 4 starting forwards. But if you're going to hit the same rubbish ball up the field, you're going to have the same end product as you had last year against Galway, and the same difficulties against Galway the year before when Tipp just about got across the line.
They weren't that far from beating Galway last year, though, really.
No. So you just imagine if they played with variety in their play.
But last year was a disaster because you get beaten in an All-Ireland semi-final when you're defending the All-Ireland title, and it's a difficult thing to do. We just know that's what happens. And to me, it seemed so. Ronan Maher was sensational last week in midfield, and it was almost to me as if they were like, okay, so we know he can do that now, and we're going to unveil that properly come the big matches in the championship. Let's just mess around and see what else we have here. Let's see how he would do so they put a man marking TJ, did they?
Yeah.
Well, it didn't work.
First point was that Ronan Maher played half of that game against Limerick in midfield and half at wing back, and he probably played his better stuff wing back. So I think that's one of the big problems. Okay, Michael Ryan was looking for versatility in this team so that they wouldn't be as predictable. So he's tried Cathal Barrett midfield, hasn't worked at all. Michael Breen corner forward, hasn't worked. Well, like he's got some scores at times, but it just doesn't look like in the summer when the ball is flying around the place like it was yesterday, coming collecting those low balls, it just doesn't suit him. He's a full back now, and I could see him anywhere in the half back line as well. Tipp have a huge problem at full back, and I think he's the answer. And we've talked about that before.
Do you think Michael Breen's the answer?
Yeah. And I've been saying this for 2 years. A couple of years ago at the under-21s, he was full back and sensational. Like Tipp have produced 2 probably brilliant full-backs from underage in the last 10 years. Number 1 is Pádraig Maher, and number 2 is Michael Breen. Now, if you look at Galway and Kilkenny, what have they done with full-back? They've put arguably their best defender there. James Barry has had some great games for Tipperary. It's just not going for him at the moment, whether it's form or whatever.
So what's the problem with the full-back?
Well, number 1...
How did it manifest itself yesterday?
Well, simple case that James Barry was dragged around the place. So at times Tipp were left with a 2-man full back line of Alan Flynn and Michael Cahill, which are 2 relatively small guys. Alan Flynn had a great game, Michael Cahill did okay. But James Barry's confidence is all over the place. Like as I said, he's been a great servant, had some great games, but the confidence just isn't there. And he's been targeted by other teams. And you saw the way Wally Walsh caught a ball over him and steamed in for a goal. I mean, it's been an issue there for the last while. Now, how I feel sorry for James Barry is that the team aren't protecting him or the full back line at all. So in hurling, very simply, you want all the space to be in your forward line and nothing but traffic surrounding your back line. So that it's very difficult to get through them.
You protect the D, you put bodies in front of the D.
Yeah, so Tipperary, to use the soccer parlance, have too high a line, which means that when Kilkenny win the ball, and they're now working the ball up the field as we know, like they're evolving, whereas Tipperary, I can say we because I'm a Tipperary man, are just driving the ball along, which means they can sit back and wait for it.
Yeah.
So Kilkenny are moving it up through the lines, and they're trying to burst out and hit space with the ball, or hit it high on top of the right player. Whereas Tipperary have got Willie Connors, a young guy coming in, one of the good performers yesterday, but it's his second game for Tipp, and they're hitting high ball hanging on top of him, and it doesn't suit him, and he played quite well. But if you're Willie Connors, you want low ball, you want it hitting grass in front of you, turn your man, go at him. Like Paddy Deegan had a great game cornerback, but his dream would have been, can Kilkenny or can Tipperary hit high ball with snow on it on top of me constantly? And they did exactly what Kilkenny would want. And this is history repeating every year.
Once you add Noel McGrath into the team, suddenly, and Bonner, and you have Pádraig Maher at right wing back. Where does the other Mar end up? What's your half back line and who's in midfield?
What would I do?
Yeah.
Well,
what will they end up doing though?
Well, the last year or so has shown that they don't change that much, and maybe he'll just keep it what he has. I mean, obviously there are those players to come in. So, right, just to look at the forward line. If you bring those 4 players back in, so you've got no, like John McGrath is always going to start. We know that.
Where though? Because Christy O'Connor was saying today that he's one of the great goal scorers at the moment. He was playing the half forward line yesterday a good bit.
Yeah. I was in and out, so he set up the goal when he was inside. And
so just keep him inside.
He's Tipp's probably most intelligent player and could go down as Tipp's best ever player.
Maybe you bring him out and you play him in the half forward line.
Oh yeah, I don't see a massive issue, and guys swap in and out the whole time. You need versatility.
Well, so if you bring Callan back, then you do have somebody who can win his own ball, and you've got a 2-man full forward line of the most prolific scorer across the league, and Callan is your full forward line with the 2 McGraths, Bonner and somebody else.
Dan McCormick, for example.
With Bubbles on the bench or whatever. Like, that's an unbelievable forward line that can do the lump the ball in if you need to.
No, they can't.
Why not?
Because they've shown time after time that they can't.
But if Callan's playing, why can't you?
Because Callan plays his best stuff when the ball is hit into him in space. He can turn and go at his man, or he can turn and arc and throw the ball over the bar. Like, he scored the 13 points in the All-Ireland final in 2016, 9 from play, when Tipp pulled out and did Kilkenny to Kilkenny, dragged out the field left space, pop it into him. You're not going to stop him. And
that's the same management team now. So they know how to do this.
So I can't understand why this is happening or why they continue now. And I put this direct question to Michael Breen yesterday. I said, why is there no variety? Why is it just long ball after long ball after long ball? And he's like, we said before, we're not the finished article. We did want more variety in our play. So, like, very simply, just to go back to the whole thing about having space at one, you don't want space in your backs and you do want space in your forwards. For Tipperary to create that, like, if a half-back or a midfielder gets the ball, you got to have your half-forward line coming short looking for it, because that drags out the half-back line. They can't just let their man go and get it. And you've got to have runners coming through to break the lines. But if you draw out the half-back line at Kilkenny, you then have more time or more space to pop the ball into in front of Jason Ford, in front of Willie Connors and in front of Michael Breen. So, and that's the problem for Tipperary. They need to introduce that variety. That's certainly not what they wanted yesterday. Michael Ryan said as much. That is not how they expected to play. And they treated the ball like an alien object. Did you notice how often Tipp were dropping the ball? I think for a finish they were completely psyched out.
If you threw Pádraig Walsh in as full back for Tipp, would he struggle in a similar manner? It doesn't matter what the sort of player is, it's a systemic failure basically.
I think he's got, Pádraig Walsh has incredible pace. You know that point he scored against Cork in the league earlier this year where he just burned 90 yards and threw it over the bar. I think Pádraig Walsh is a bit of an exception. Now, Jason Ford had a very good game on him actually, but I think Pádraig Walsh is brilliant in the air and he's really quick around the ground. When Pádraig Maher went full back, it completely shorted up. I think that was pretty evident to most people.
Yesterday?
Yeah, because Pádraig Maher is pretty much, even though people might realise it, he's pretty much the fastest player on the Tipperary panel. And, I mean, evidently he's the strongest as well. So,
can I just make the case, though, that I understand that it's important to shore up the defence and to give everybody confidence by having a good fullback, but can't you do that through scheme? Can't you, by having an extra body back there or whatever? What you're doing in sacrificing one of your best hurlers is giving this massive surge of confidence to the opposition. It's like, okay, well, every time he gets the ball, he's going to lay it off or lump it. And actually, if he had ball in the half-back line or in midfield, he could do significant damage to us. Is there not an opportunity cost with having, by all means, have your best athlete there, but also having one of your best hurlers there is a bit of a waste?
But sure, that's precisely what Kilkenny have done with Pádraig Walsh and precisely what Galway have done with Daithí Burke.
Fair enough, but you don't have to ape what they're doing, because otherwise it's a copycat league.
Do we not do a full piece here about the importance of fullback being athletically the most demanding position about 3 or 4 weeks ago?
Athletically, yes, but put a good athlete there. You don't have to have somebody. My point is that there should be somebody who is as athletic as Mar, who you don't then sacrifice out the field, who you then don't have in midfield or you don't have in the half-back line. Well,
Michael Breen and Pádraig Maher are the two options that I would see. I mean, I'm not the manager of the Tipperary team and I don't have to deal with all the issues Michael Ryan has to deal with. I'm sure it's a tough job and all that kind of stuff. You don't want to go down too hard on people from your own area. But they
Too late.
Yeah, I know. But those are the two options that I would see. And I know Michael Ryan has been pushed from Billy to Jack in different positions since he arrived on the team a couple of years ago. He's played midfield, half forward line and now the full forward line. And I can see the benefit. You know, Michael Ryan clearly wants to pick a forward line that can win their own ball. That's why Bill McCarthy's in centre forward, and I thought he did quite well for the first half. That's why Breen is in there, the perception of winning your own ball. But you need to be very tight in possession to play in that inside line, especially under the pressure that Kilkenny are going to put you under. And make no mistake, Tipperary should have been winning that game and winning it well. Like Tipperary, hurler for hurler. And Kilkenny have a lot of the guys to come back too. So I wouldn't be saying, oh, Tipp of all these lads to come back. Kilkenny have Paul Murphy, 4 All-Stars in a row. Richie Hogan, 2014 Hurler of the Year.
Colin Fennelly,
All-Star, who consistently hurts Tipperary.
I don't know if you're underrating this Kilkenny team a bit by saying that Tipp should be winning that and winning it well.
Well,
it feels a little bit like we are underrating a Kilkenny side who have come through the league in, pretty impressive fashion from, were they 9 or 10 points down against Clare in that first game? Like since then, and they were making the point that like they fought back that game. Like there's a bunch of there's lads taking their helmets off, coming off the field, and you're like, geez, that guy looks very young. Like there's a bunch of young lads here who have underage success behind them, who've come into that winning culture, who have exposure to Brian Cody, and who you're thinking, like, why wouldn't this team be really good? Why aren't those lads expected to be sensational?
Yeah, I think player for player though, that's why I just think player for player Tipperary have far more. And even on the bench, Tipper bringing on Cathal Barrett and Bubbles O'Dwyer as well. And there's just, it took Kilkenny 21 minutes to score from play, and it was TJ Reid. And if you took TJ Reid out of that team, and I know it's almost a silly hypothetical thing to do, but this guy is absolutely outrageous, and he did Tipp on his own, and eventually a couple other players came in and scored. Like Walter Walsh got a couple of important scores. But if I'm just looking at the scores that I've marked off here, and it's pretty much like TJ Reid's name is blotted out.
TJ got 15.
Yeah.
181 in the league in total. Yeah. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's like they've completely run the table here, Kilkenny, as you say, after that loss to Clare, and have just been on the sensational run of form. And it just seems to me, in terms of these young fellas coming in, it seems that Cody's brought them in through kind of a method of tough love and getting the likes of TJ Reid to show them example. Like if you watch any of those lads coming off, you talk about noticing their young faces when they take off their helmet. I noticed the fact that Brian Cody doesn't do a Jim Gavin or an Eamon Fitzmaurice and goes over and shake their hand when they're going off, just ignores them when they're leaving the field, which is maybe reading a little bit too much into that, but it maybe signifies, just that little bit of tough love here. It's like, you're no friend of mine, you're merely a cog in this wheel here that I've got going on, and you're just going to serve a function, and Kilkenny will always be the thing that exists here.
Yeah. Another way to talk about the Kilkenny aura, like, and players are tired and they're like, geez, when Shefflin goes, it'll fall apart. Sure, like, it's all to do with Cody, and anyone who was talking earlier this year about, Brian Cody, it's time he left and all this. I mean, at the time, I certainly was shouting, this is nonsense. He's a brilliant tactician. And, there was all that talk about for years that Kilkenny don't do tactics. Killian Buckley even said this week, tactics have come into it. They've always come into it for Kilkenny. Where you pick someone is tactics.
Whether or not they go man-to-man or zonal.
The fact that they sit back so much and drag teams up the field, that's a huge tactic. That works so well. The fact that TJ Reid is centre forward and just orchestrating the whole thing. Like, he was involved in the goal, never mind the 15 points. He set up 4 scoring chances, and he played the ball just before the ball that led to Walter Walsh's goal by setting it up. So
I did think he'd done his knee in a non-contact injury at one point.
Yeah.
He goes down and you're like, oh Jesus.
You probably had the benefit of a replay now, because I was just there, so I didn't see.
So I saw somebody on Twitter saying he got a bang of a hurl, but actually on the replay you couldn't see any bang. It was just like a turn, and then like he's holding his knee, and suddenly the whole season looks completely different. Gets up, runs it off. Probably diagnosed today as a partial tear.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, Kilkenny lads have played All-Ireland finals without Cruciates before, John Tennyson and Henry Shefflin.
Yeah, it didn't work out for Henry as much as it did for John Tennyson, but
no. I mean, I'd just love to see Tipperary just pick the right players in the right positions. And
don't they have to experiment though? Like, we're facing into the most chaotic period of championship matches that any hurling organisation is ever going to have, right? Because of the new system. And so what they needed to do with this league campaign was get a bunch of people up to the requisite level of fitness and experience and expertise to be able to go, at various stages we're going to face things where we need to put you full back and we need to put you full forward. We need to play you as a 2-man midfield partnership, and this is how it's going to work. And they're trialling that in the league. Like, talking to Dalo a couple of years ago about league matches, you'd go 20 minutes with one game plan, you'd switch it regardless of the score to another game plan because you wanted to see exactly how that was working with various players in various positions. You have to assume that a Tipperary management team who've been around this senior group for the best part of a decade understand exactly how to get the best out of their resources. That's the question here that you don't think they do.
Well, I just think when it's a league final and there's silverware there, especially against Kilkenny, Tipperary are going to need to try and go to win it. Also, it's the last game that they have before championship, so you think this is the time that the team is going to be settled. Bar maybe one or two in that Kilkenny team. Jerry Aylward was injured, another All-Star that was missing for them. You'd imagine that's going to be pretty much the team, unless they can parachute in those couple of star players. You know, like the two guys away on army duty are back very late. Richie Hogan's
where does Paul Murphy get in the team now?
Ahead of Joey Holden, I'd imagine, because that's been his position for years, and like I said, the 4 All-Stars in a row there, I'd imagine he would go in there. For Tipp, you just, like, Cathal Barrett's probably on form, when he's on form, is the best cornerback in the game. So I'd be putting him back into the cornerback line as well. I'd just basically try and pick a team that's a bit more coherent.
Yeah, isn't Cathal Barrett, like, isn't there okay, we've had our issues, and it's going to take you a little bit of time to win our confidence back, and we're going to make you prove yourself, and so that's what this period is about. But come the second or third championship match, when actually you do really need your team, you don't need your team to be finalised for the first championship game, do you? Because like ultimately most teams change and evolve over the course of the year. Players come in and out of form, but if this is my first 15 and everybody else can go shite, like, there's no point in that.
Well, maybe not. I mean, if you're thinking longer term thinking, sure, but if you lose your first game in Munster, and Limerick pushed Tipperary to extra time recently, you don't want to be on the back foot straight away, because one more mistake and you don't get to the Munster final, and another mistake after that and maybe you don't even get into the All-Ireland series. So I think Michael Ryan came away from that game yesterday and he looked fairly down, and having to watch him go into the Kilkenny dressing room to congratulate them, that can't have been an easy thing, especially how the team lost. I mean, for a finish, their noses were rubbed into it. And I think he's going into the championship now with more questions than answers. He won't see these players at all this week. He'll have them two sessions per week from here on out, up until he gets them back after the club month. And I think he's going in wondering, what exactly is my team going to be? The
thing is, like, we were in this position this time last year, so surely Michael Ryan has learned something from what happened in the summer last year after a disastrous league final.
But sure, the thing was, the full back line is an issue. Stop hitting long ball. These are still the same issues. So
it seems like a very simple one for a man like Michael Ryan not to be able to identify.
Well, he did say that that's not how he wanted the team to play, and he wanted more variety. But it was the exact same thing against Limerick. It's just that day, guys who have class stood up a little bit more and showed a bit more class and had more finishing to them, and also Limerick gifted Tipperary a couple of scores.
What's the story with McGrath and Callan and Bonner? Like, are they close to return?
Yeah, so Callan's had the back issue and he's back running. Noel McGrath had a broken thumb. He should be back soon. He said all of those players should be back within 2 weeks.
Right.
Yeah, so it should be full steam ahead, assuming that none of them get injured in the club championship.
And Bonner, is it straightforward, straight in at centre forward, or what? Like, what's Bonner's role in the team these days?
Yeah, he's been kind of wing a lot of the time, so wing or centre forward, and he's been used on the inside as well. Again, it'll be a lot of interchanging, as it tends to be the case, and which you need as well, because otherwise you're... And as well, actually, that's the other thing.
Can Bonner not win his own ball?
Of course he can win his own ball, yeah. But again, if he wins the ball, and Kilkenny have been able to... Like, if you're a Kilkenny half-back line, and you see someone in the Tipp back line...
You just stay back.
You're like, I'm sprinting back. And like, even if, let's say, Bonner and Dan McCormick, who's obviously been really, really good for Tipp, but he's probably not a scorer from 65 yards. If Tipp play Bonner on one wing and they play Dan McCormick on the other wing, those wing backs can almost gamble that even if a short ball is played to them, there's a good chance that they're not going to score five. Well, they won't score 5 from play.
Yeah.
They're brilliant at other things, but they're probably not going to score 5 from play. So you need to have that mix of scorers out in the half-forward line coming short. Noel McGrath, maybe John McGrath, maybe Bubbles out there, depending on how it goes. But you need to make sure that you keep the half-back line honest, so that you can pop the ball and hit grass in front of the full-forward line.
Okay, we should talk a bit more about Kilkenny, given how sensational a recovery it is from... I mean, okay, some people were saying that maybe it was time for Cody to step upstairs into a director of hurling role. You obviously weren't. It did feel like this is a new team, and it did feel like, okay, so TJ's orchestrating things, but like, fair enough, you have TJ in your team, so you're going to let him orchestrate things, especially while some of these guys come through. TJ afterwards was talking about a couple of them who hadn't ever played in league finals before, and it was important for them. Like, they know what they're doing, they know how to field, or how to fold new talent in, and I'm pretty impressed by them.
Yeah, like as the game went on, if you just look at the different players, like John Donnelly, eventually he got 2 points on the board as well, so that'll be huge for his confidence. At times last year he didn't start for the under-21s that were beaten very badly in the All-Ireland final. Martin Keown has really grown into this league, and Tommy Walsh has probably talked about him a few times here because he's his own clubman. Bill Sheehan was very good, not necessarily yesterday, he was okay, but he was very good against Wexford and looks a really clever player. And the back line just looks a bit more settled. Like Enda Morrissey and Conor Delaney were quite good, they were very good against Wexford. Richie Lahey at midfield as well. I mean, he was taken off yesterday, but he's been a good find in the league as well. So he's just kind of brought through play. Like, I mean, they probably don't have the same star quality as the players of old, but that's not to suggest that some of them won't grow into that.
No, and maybe that's exactly what Brian Cody wants. He wants the team to be the thing. It's hard though when you've got somebody like TJ. So somebody said they saw Richie Hogan skipping down the road yesterday. I don't know if Richie Hogan is going to be as good as he ever was. Like, a back injury is so hard to come back from, and whether or not Fenley comes back at the level that he's been at before. But you can see the rest of them having an impact as the season goes on, and like, suddenly the championship is wide open.
And that's it. Like, the prospects of a brilliant chance. Like, Tipperary won't be too far away. If someone beats them, it'll probably be by a puck of the ball, and they won't be as poor as they were yesterday. Like, they were dreadful. But Kilkenny were very good. So I know I keep talking about Tipperary being bad, but Kilkenny did win all the ball. They won the dirty ball, they won the long ball, they cleverly set up.
They killed them in the puck outs. Christy O'Connor has a piece today in the Times Ireland edition, and there's like the puck outs go all Tipperary's way for the first 20 minutes and then all Kilkenny's way for the next 20 minutes, and that's the bit where the game is won and lost. Nolan Park is a huge advantage for Kilkenny, says Noel Cal on Twitter. Small pitch suits their style. It's not that small a pitch, is it?
No.
It's the same size pitch,
Pretty much. It's a great place to play hurling.
Willie Casey, the thing everybody likes about Kilkenny is they just play the game as it comes. Win or lose, they just get on with it. Tipp, always have an excuse.
Well, at least you have plenty of them this morning. Are
they excuses, or am I at least explaining?
Well, they could be good excuses.
Tangible reasons why Tipperary aren't setting up to best use their resources, in my opinion.
Does yesterday's result...
IMHO.
Does yesterday's result make it more of an enticing championship?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, by a mile, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's like Kilkenny beat Tipperary in league final.
Yeah, but it's a new Kilkenny team. Like,
I know it is. I know.
Kilkenny team.
Granted.
Walter Walsh was apparently in danger of being taken off before.
Really?
Well, I don't know. Christy makes the point that like he'd had 2 plays in the entire first half, one of which the ball gets flicked away from him. It's like, and then started the second half. Could leave him on. He's in good form.
Yeah, he's delivered for them before as well. You know, he's a very good player.
Yeah, but so what's your instruction to Walter Walsh if you're Brian Cody? Like, he's been coming deeper a lot more this year than we've seen before, rather than being the kind of fundamental number 14 who'll just hang in, puck the ball in long to Walter. He's got more dynamic. He comes a lot deeper now, and I think there's, as I say, I think more of a dynamic role that Walter Walsh can bring to that team.
Yeah, well, he sometimes swaps out to the half-forward line. John Donnelly was in full forward as well at times, and even in the Wexford game as well. Sometimes he's out in the half-forward line.
Isn't it a real pity all the same he didn't take up the rugby, didn't stick with the rugby?
Yeah, I'd say he's devastated, all right. But like at times there was Martin Keown, TJ Reid and Walter Walsh at the half-forward line. Ball winners the whole way across.
Yeah, they're not bad.
Yeah,
it's going to be good.
They draw out far out the field. Huge space to hit the...
How many good teams aren't going to make it to the All-Ireland series?
Well, there's 2 coming, yeah.
That's it.
It's 6 make it, so there's 8 good teams. 6 make it, top 3 in each, right? 6
out of 10 get through, and then there's the Joe McDonagh finalists as well. So you're going to lose a couple of heavy hitters from both Munster and Leinster.
Yeah.
But more so in Munster, obviously. As in Kilkenny have more room to experiment in Championship as well.
Yeah, well, you'd imagine, based on current form and based on the last couple of years, that Dublin and Offaly won't get through Leinster.
Yeah. So, but Kilkenny, Wexford and Galway will.
Yeah.
And so there's only 3 teams coming out of there?
Yeah, and then the Joe McDonagh finalists will meet the third place teams.
Okay. And 3 teams from Munster coming through. So somebody goes definitely through.
Tipp, Waterford, Clare. I mean, you know the Munster teams.
So Limerick or Cork.
Yeah.
2 of those 5 are coming through.
Yeah.
All right. Gotta go. Thanks for that. Good man.